The portal that should never open the night was quiet in Sector 9. Stars blinked above the cold mountain sky. Captain Mark Reiner stood alone on the patrol tower, sipping his last bit of lukewarm coffee. Nothing ever happened in this remote military base. No enemies. No threats. Just endless silence until tonight. A loud hum broke the stillness. It was low, like a whisper that grew into a scream. Mark turned quickly. Lights flickered across the field. Alarms didn't ring. No alert came from the control room. Just that sound, unnatural, heavy, vibrating through his bones. And then he saw it. A hole in the air. Not a door. Not a tunnel. A circle made of light, twisting and warping like water pulled into a drain. The ground trembled under it. It was a portal, one he'd only read about in top-secret files. Those things weren't real, were they? Before Mark could reach for his communicator, something, or someone, fell through. He rushed down the tower steps, boots slamming the metal. When he reached the field, his breath caught in his throat. A girl. No, not just any girl. She looked young, maybe in her 20s, but not human. Her skin shimmered faintly in the moonlight, like silver with shades of blue. Long white hair flowed down her back like silk, and she was naked, completely, not a single piece of clothing. She blinked, weak and shaking, her eyes wide with fear. They were violet, glowing faintly, like amethyst in the dark. She tried to stand but stumbled. Her knees hit the dirt. Mark dropped his jacket and ran to her. "Hey, it's okay. You're safe," he said, kneeling beside her. She flinched at his voice, curling into herself like a scared animal. Her eyes locked onto his, filled with confusion, terror, and something else. Trust? Mark didn't know what to do. This wasn't in any manual. He wrapped the jacket around her gently. She shivered but didn't pull away. "Can you understand me?" he asked. She stared at his lips as he spoke but said nothing. Then suddenly, she tried to speak. Strange sounds came from her mouth. Soft, musical, like a song from another world. Not a language he recognized. More lights sparked in the sky above. The portal was closing. Within seconds it vanished, gone without a trace as if it never existed. Mark helped the girl to her feet. She was light, fragile. He could feel her heartbeat racing through his jacket. He looked around. No cameras in this part of the field. No one saw her yet. He had to move fast. His quarters were too far. The closest shelter was the old comms shack, long abandoned. No surveillance, no questions. He led her there, walking quickly but quietly through the back trail. She didn't speak. She only held the jacket tightly, watching everything around her like she'd never seen grass or wind or sky before. Inside the shack, Mark cleared off a dusty bench. He found an old emergency blanket, wrapping it around her legs. The room was cold, but her body glowed faintly, like she was giving off warmth from inside. "We'll figure this out," he whispered, unsure if he was saying it for her or for himself. She looked at him again. Slowly, she raised her hand and touched his face just lightly with one fingertip. Her eyes softened. A tiny tear rolled down her cheek. She didn't seem afraid anymore. Mark stared at her. Who was she? Why did the portal open here? And why, out of all the people in the world? Had she landed in front of him? The shack lights flickered suddenly. A soft beep came from her wrist. Mark looked down. There was a symbol glowing just under her skin, shaped like a spiral. It pulsed with light, like a heartbeat. The girl looked down too, and gasped. She grabbed Mark's hand suddenly and said one word. Danger. That one word sent a chill through his spine. Before he could ask what she meant, the lights outside the shack flashed red for a second. Something, or someone, was out there, watching. And the real story was just beginning. She doesn't know her name. The shack was silent, but Mark's heart was not. He stared at the strange spiral glowing on the girl's wrist. It pulsed slowly, like a signal, or maybe a countdown. Her hand trembled as she pulled her arm away, hiding it under the emergency blanket. What was that? Mark asked, trying to keep his voice calm. She didn't answer. Instead, her violet eyes darted to the window. She felt something out there. Something Mark couldn't see or hear. Her breathing became shallow, her body tense. Mark turned off the single light bulb hanging above them. Darkness wrapped around the room. He reached slowly toward the old supply locker and pulled out a dusty, long-range scanner from an abandoned drone kit. It barely worked, but he tried anyway. As the machine powered up, a faint crackling noise filled the air. Outside the shack, there were no footsteps, no voices, but something was there. Then the scanner blinked red. Unidentified energy nearby. The screen read. Mark's stomach sank. He glanced at the girl again. She was now curled in a corner, arms wrapped around her knees, the emergency blanket covering her like a fragile shield. She looked like someone who had lost everything. "Who's after you?" he asked. Again, silence. But her eyes finally met his. This time, they were not empty. They were pleading. She opened her mouth slowly, trying to form a word. She frowned, frustrated, then pointed to herself. She shook her head. "You don't know your name?" Mark asked. She nodded once. How could she not know her name? Was it trauma, memory loss, or something deeper? Mark tried another approach. He picked up an old data pad and drew a figure. A stick girl. Then another figure. A human male. He pointed to the girl figure. "You." He pointed to the boy. "Me." She watched closely. She understood. Then Mark drew a heart between them and quickly crossed it out. Not romantic, just connection. She raised an eyebrow, confused. Then slowly, she reached for the pad and drew a star above the girl. Then a swirl inside the star. Mark stared at it. That same symbol was on her wrist. "What is that?" he whispered. She tapped her own chest, then her head. Whatever that symbol was. It was part of her identity, but not her name. Then something unexpected happened. The shack's old radio, silent for years, crackled to life. Signal lock. Code fragment detected. Initiate sweep. The voice was robotic, cold. Not from Earth. The girl jumped to her feet. Her glow brightened. She backed into the wall, shaking her head in panic. Mark grabbed the radio and yanked out the battery. Too late. He looked through the slats in the shack wall. Far out near the old comms tower, 3 lights were descending. Not helicopters, not drones. They moved like hunters, like shadows that stalked without sound. "We have to leave," he said, grabbing his gear. But the girl didn't move. Her body was frozen. The spiral on her wrist was now glowing red. "Listen to me," Mark said firmly, taking her hand. "You came to me for a reason. I'm not going to let them take you. But we have to move. Now." She stared at him, eyes wide, and then nodded. He led her out through the back door of the shack into the darkness of the forest. Every step felt like it echoed across the trees. Mark knew the terrain well. The girl did not, but she followed, silent and fast, even without shoes. Somewhere deep in the woods, they reached an old ranger outpost, powered down, forgotten. It would have to do. Inside, Mark gave her a new blanket, some emergency rations, and an old pair of boots. She watched him closely, studying everything he did. It was clear. She was intelligent. Not just a scared girl, she was learning fast. When they finally rested, she crawled beside the small heater and closed her eyes for the first time. But sleep didn't bring peace. She whispered in her sleep. Soft, scared. Alien words mixed with English fragments. Run. Portal. Don't go back. Mark sat nearby, awake, thinking. Who was she really? Why did a forbidden portal open just for her? And why, when she had no name, no memory, did her eyes still show sorrow so deep it could break steel? Then, just before dawn, she whispered one last thing in her dream. A word. It wasn't English, but it was the first clue. Kalira. Mark didn't know what it meant, but she spoke it like it was once everything to her. Maybe her name. Maybe a place. Or maybe a warning. He wrote it down, and outside in the distance another portal began to flicker. Something was still looking for her, and it had just found their trail. The human and the signal dawn broke like a silent scream over the trees. Pale light touched the forest, but it did not bring peace. Inside the ranger outpost, Mark sat with his rifle across his knees. He hadn't slept, not even for a minute. His eyes stayed on the girl now resting under the emergency blanket. She looked almost human in her sleep, soft, calm. But he knew better now. The word she had whispered in her dreams still echoed in his mind. Kalyra. Was it her name? A place? Or something more dangerous? Mark reached for his datapad and entered the word into the restricted database. Military servers. Were locked tight, but he had clearance. At least for now. No results. He narrowed his search. Alien languages. Off-world linguistics. Ancient pre-contact texts. Still nothing. Then, just before he gave up, one match blinked onto the screen. Kalyra. Classified designation. Source. Xenolinguistic threat level Omega. Status. Erased. Erased? Mark leaned back, stunned. Whatever Kalyra was, someone had tried to wipe it from every database. Completely. Just then, the girl stirred. She sat up, blinking slowly. Her hair had tangled during sleep, but her glowing eyes remained the same. Distant. Watching everything. Mark turned the screen toward her. This word, he said, pointing. Kalyra, you said it in your sleep. She looked at the screen. A deep silence passed between them. Then she nodded, but her eyes filled with tears. She reached out, pressed her finger to the word, and her spiral mark lit up again, brighter this time, pulsing with a fast, anxious rhythm. Suddenly, a sharp sound broke through the silence. Beep, beep, beep. Not from the outpost, from inside the girl. The signal was live. Mark grabbed the scanner and locked onto the source. The device flashed wildly. Broadcast active. Multidimensional frequency. It wasn't just a location signal. It was a beacon. What are you? Mark whispered. She looked at him and did something unexpected. She stood up, placed her hand gently over her heart, then lifted it to her temple. Ra, she said slowly, forcing the sound from her lips. Mark's chest tightened. It was her name. But that word held pain. She winced as she said it. Like the name was a cage. Or a scar. Kalyra. He repeated softly. She blinked, surprised. She nodded again. Her glow calmed. For the first time, her breathing slowed. Mark lowered his weapon. I'm Mark, he said, placing his hand on his chest. She tilted her head and said, It was close enough. Then the signal changed. The scanner began to crackle. A voice emerged, one that sent chills down Mark's spine. Unit 76B has activated the lost signal. All retrieval agents engage. Do not allow the Kalyra unit to bond with the human. Mark stared at the scanner. Bond? He looked back at the girl. She stepped back, face pale. Then everything in the outpost shut off. Power. Dead. Lights. Gone. Devices. Silent. Outside, the sound of trees cracking filled the air. Something massive was moving through the forest. Mark grabbed his rifle and moved to the narrow window. Shadows moved between the trees, too smooth, too coordinated. Not animals, not people. Machines, he whispered. You're not just an alien, are you? Kalyra's voice came softly behind him. Not made. Changed. She struggled with the words, but Mark understood. She wasn't natural. She had been created, or worse, modified. Outside, the forest shook again. One of the machines stepped into view. Tall as a truck, sleek black metal, with limbs that bent the wrong way. No face. Just sensors glowing like red stars. Mark turned back. Kailira's hands were glowing now. Pure white light gathered in her palms. "What are you doing?" Mark asked. She touched his arm. In that moment, visions exploded in his mind. He saw a facility, a lab, metal beds, screaming children, alien scientists, a black star spinning in the sky, machines draining energy from glowing bodies, and her, Kailira, strapped to a table, eyes wide, begging to escape. Then, light. A portal opened under her, and someone said in a deep voice, "Send her to the humans. They're the only ones who can stop this." Mark fell back, gasping. The visions ended. Kailira knelt beside him, her eyes sad. "I choose human," she whispered. Mark looked at her, not as a soldier, not as an alien, but as something in between. And outside, the machine's sensor locked onto the outpost. Red lights blinked. The hunter had found them, hunted across Earth. The sound was sharp, like metal tearing trees apart. Captain Mark Reiner froze by the window as the hunter stepped into view, its long legs slicing across the forest floor. It was 10 feet tall, shaped like a spider and a hawk mixed together, its black armor reflecting the cold morning light. Red eyes blinked across its body like scanning lasers. Target acquired. Mark ducked back. Kailira stood behind him, fists glowing with pale white energy, her body trembling. "How many?" she asked. Her voice was slow, heavy. "One outside. But others are coming. They always travel in packs." Kailira closed her eyes. "Need to run." Mark didn't argue. He knew this shack wouldn't last 5 seconds against that thing. He grabbed his field pack, slung the rifle, and opened the rear hatch. "Go! Stay low! Follow the river!" Kailira darted out, light on her feet, silent as moonlight. Mark followed, staying close behind her. Trees blurred past them. Birds exploded from branches as the hunter's steps shook the ground behind. Then came the sound. A scream. Not human. Not animal. It was the sound of a machine letting loose a signal meant to paralyze. Kailira stumbled, pressing her hands over her ears. Her glow dimmed. Mark turned, raised his rifle, and fired 3 sharp bursts into the air, not at the hunter, but to distract it. The gunshots worked. The machine paused, sensors twitching, but it didn't give up. It leapt forward, crashing through trees like paper. "Move!" Mark shouted, grabbing Kailira's arm. They ran harder, faster. After 20 minutes of nonstop running, they reached a rocky gorge. A narrow bridge crossed it, old and broken but still standing. Kailira stopped. "Trap." Mark looked at her. "What do you mean?" "They wait." "Other side," she whispered. She pointed to her temple. "I feel them." That's when he realized Kailira wasn't just sensing them, she was connected to them. Whatever they did to her in that lab, she could hear the machines, maybe even feel what they were planning. He took a breath. "Is there another way?" She shook her head. "No time. They circle. We trick." She looked down at the river far below. Mark's eyes widened. "You want to jump?" Kailira nodded. "Once." "You trust me?" Mark stared into her glowing eyes. He didn't know why, but he did. "Let's do it," he said. They stepped back, ran to the edge, and jumped. The fall was long. The water hit them like concrete, cold, black, endless. Mark struggled to breathe. Kailira grabbed his hand underwater, her palm glowing. The river around them began to light up. The water bent around them like a shield. She was controlling it. She wasn't just glowing. She was changing the world around her. They floated gently, downstream, hiding in the current. The hunters scanned the bridge above but found nothing. Their sensors blinked red. Target lost. Miles later, the river curved near a cave hidden by vines. Kailira guided them inside. Inside, the cave was dark, but safe. For now. They collapsed on the cold stone floor, soaked and shaking. Mark looked at her. What are you?" Kalira didn't answer at first, then she whispered, "Once, child, then test. Now, not sure." She looked at her hands, the glow fading. They put code inside me. Code? Mark asked. Weapon code, memory code, soul code. She pressed her fingers to her forehead. I hold something they want, something they fear. Mark sat in silence. The pieces were coming together now. The Zerelian Empire, an ancient alien force, created weapons that could destroy worlds, but not just bombs or ships. They built living weapons. Kalira wasn't just a girl who escaped a lab. She was the only failed success, one they lost, and now hunted across galaxies to erase. Mark stood. You're not a weapon anymore. You're a person. Kalira looked away. They won't stop until I vanish. He stepped closer. Then we don't let them find you. She looked at him. Why help me? Your people don't know me. I bring war. Mark smiled faintly. You didn't fall here by accident. Something sent you to me. Maybe you were meant to be found by a human. She tilted her head. You believe fate? No, he said. I believe in doing the right thing, even when it's hard. Suddenly, the glow on her wrist changed. No longer red, now golden. She looked at it confused. Never seen this color before. Mark stared at it. What does it mean? Kalira met his eyes. I don't know, but it only changed when you said that. They sat in silence, the fire crackling low, but deep in space, on a massive black ship orbiting near Jupiter, a commander stared at a new signal. She is bonding, the alien said, with the human. We must send the purifier, burn the forest, erase everything. On Earth, Mark and Kalira didn't know it yet, but war was already coming. The past she cannot forget. The cave stayed quiet for hours. The fire was dying. The river outside whispered gently, but inside Kalira's mind, storms raged. She sat near the stone wall, arms wrapped around her knees. Her eyes stared ahead, but she wasn't seeing the cave. She was seeing memories. Mark watched her silently. He knew something was breaking inside her. He had seen that look before, on soldiers who came back from missions with ghosts in their heads. Finally, she spoke. Her voice was soft. I remember now. Mark leaned forward. Your name? She shook her head. My pain. She took a shaky breath and pressed her hand to the spiral mark on her wrist. I was born on a ship, not planet, not home, just cold metal. They called us Generation Code 9. Mark listened carefully. They take us when we are small. Mix our blood. Change our bones. Put machines in our minds. She pointed to her temple. I had no voice. Just numbers. Just commands. Wake. Train. Sleep. Repeat. Her body trembled. The cave air grew cold. They made us fight each other. To test. To see which child would live. I lived. Others, not. A tear slid down her cheek. But I broke something. Inside the machines. I screamed one day, and the walls melted. The lights shattered. I didn't know how. They were scared. Mark stared in disbelief. You destroyed the lab? Not all, she said. Just enough to run. Kalira closed her eyes. They chased me. Always. They said I was wrong, broken, too human. Those words hit Mark like a punch to the chest. Too human, he repeated softly. I ran through the portal, not knowing where. I didn't choose Earth. The portal did. Mark stepped closer. You said the portal brought you to me. Kalira nodded slowly. Someone, or something, chose you. Protector. Then the spiral on her wrist pulsed again. Bright gold. And this time, Mark saw something new. A second symbol flickered, right beside the spiral. His name. That's my name, Mark said. Kalira looked at her wrist, shocked. It bonded. What does that mean? We are linked now. The fire crackled louder, but their moment ended when a roar echoed across the valley. Mark stood quickly and ran to the edge of the cave. He looked up and froze. The sky was burning. Giant alien ships, dark, flat, and silent, broke through the clouds. They didn't make sound like human jets. They moved like shadows of mountains, casting black over everything below. Energy beams fell from the ships, cutting through the forest. Trees burst into flame. Animals ran. Birds scattered. The world was waking up to war. Kalyra joined him at the cave's mouth, her glow brightening with fear. They sent the purifier, she said. What is that? Mark asked. Not a ship, not a weapon. It eats everything. Turns life into data, memory into dust. Can we fight it? Kalyra looked at him. No, only run. Or, I use the code. Mark narrowed his eyes. What code? She stepped back and raised her hand. Glowing lines appeared in the air around her fingers, forming shapes like ancient symbols, alive and moving. This is why they want me back, she said. This is the power they fear. Mark stepped closer. What does it do? Kalyra lowered her hand. I can stop the purifier. But if I use it, I may burn too. Mark shook his head. No, there has to be another way. Kalyra looked at him, and for the first time, her voice didn't shake. This is why I was made. To burn everything, to erase threats. I am not a hero. You're not a weapon either, Mark said. Outside, the forest lit up in orange fire. Another beam fell, closer this time. Kalyra looked at the burning sky. I need to go, she said, to the high ridge. I must call the code from the stars. Mark grabbed his gear. Then I'm coming with you. She paused. It will be dangerous. You already jumped off a cliff with me, Mark said. I think we're past danger. Oh, a small smile touched her lips. For the first time. They left the cave, moving fast through falling ash and crackling trees. Above them, the sky was filled with ships, drones, and floating machines that scanned for one thing, Kalyra. As they climbed the ridge, Kalyra spoke again. If I disappear, promise me one thing. No, Mark said instantly. We're both coming out of this. Promise, she repeated. Mark looked at her, glowing in firelight, ash in her hair, eyes still filled with pain and hope. I promise to stay. She smiled again, and the gold spiral on her wrist pulsed stronger. Above them, the purifier descended, and in part 6, the battle will begin. Kalyra must choose between using her code and saving Mark, or losing herself forever in the process. A human's last stand. The sky was no longer blue. It was red and black, twisting with smoke and fire. Giant ships floated above like monsters from a nightmare. One of them was bigger than all the rest. It didn't have weapons on them outside. It didn't need them. It was the purifier. From above, it looked like a broken moon made of metal. Its shape changed as it moved, like it was alive. Mark and Kalyra reached the top of the high ridge, panting. The wind was strong up here. Ash blew around them like snow. Down in the valley, everything was on fire. The forest burned. Homes were gone. Humans were running, fighting, screaming. But nothing they used worked against the machines. Their bullets vanished into shields. Their rockets turned to dust. Mark stared at it all, heart racing. This is an invasion, he whispered. Kalyra stood beside him. Her glow was steady now, not flickering, not afraid. This is a cleansing, she said softly. They do not see your people. They see infection. They see me. She raised her hand. The golden spiral on her wrist began spinning. Fast, bright. Symbols appeared in the sky above her head, lines of light forming a circle. Like a digital sun. Mark looked at her, confused. What are you doing? Calling the code, she said. What will it do? Send a wave. It can shut the purifier, stop the invasion. But, she looked down. If I finish the sequence, I will vanish forever. Mark stepped forward. Then don't do it. I have to, she said. I was made for this. Mark grabbed her hand. No, you were made, but now you choose. She looked at him, eyes wide. No one had ever said that to her. If you die, Mark said, then they win. They erase everything human in you. Everything you've become. Kalira's hand trembled. The circle above her started to crack. I don't want to die, she whispered. Then don't, Mark said. A loud boom shook the mountain. The purifier had seen them. A beam of red energy burst from its side, heading straight for the ridge. Go, Mark shouted, pushing her down behind a rock. The blast hit. Stone exploded. Earth split open. Mark rolled down the slope, blood on his face. Kalira screamed, ran to him. He was alive, but hurt. The machines were coming now, walking up the mountain, black limbs clicking, sensors blinking. They would reach them in minutes. Kalira looked at Mark. Weak, bleeding, still trying to stand. Something inside her broke. Not like before. This was something new. A new kind of power. Not from the code. Not from the lab. From the bond. Her spiral turned white, brighter than gold, then blue, then back to gold. The air changed. The mountain began to shake. The machines stopped. The purifier froze. Kalira stepped forward, arms raised. Light exploded from her chest, pushing back the clouds, the fire, even the sound. The symbol above her spun faster, but she didn't finish the code. Instead, she turned toward Mark. You are my anchor, she said. Mark blinked. What? They made me for destruction. But you made me choose life. She turned to the purifier, now watching her with cold, red sensors. If you want me, she shouted, her voice now echoing like thunder, then take me. A beam shot from the purifier, but it never reached her. Kalira's spiral lit up again. This time, it wasn't a code. It was a shield. The beam bent, broke, and bounced back. The energy exploded in the sky, hitting the purifier's core. The ship cracked open. The machines below fell silent like puppets with cut strings. The clouds parted. The invasion stopped. Kalira fell to her knees, shaking. Mark rushed to her, caught her before she hit the ground. You didn't use the code, he whispered. No, she said, breathing hard. I used myself, not the weapon, the person. Her spiral faded. Her body was cold. Stay with me, Mark said, holding her, tighter. Kalira blinked slowly. I want to. But the bond, it used too much. You're going to be okay, he whispered. But she was fading. Mark, she said, barely speaking now. Yes? You made me real. Then her body turned to light, soft, warm, and vanished in his arms. Mark sat in silence. The wind blew softly. The machines were gone. The purifier burned in the sky like a falling star. The war was over, but so was she, or so he thought. Her name was never forgotten. For 3 days, the skies stayed quiet. No ships, no machines, no more beams falling from the clouds. The alien threat was gone, but so was she. Kalira had vanished from Mark's arms like a dying star, bright, warm, and then gone. He stayed on the ridge alone. Night fell. He didn't eat. He didn't sleep. He just waited. But nothing returned. On the 4th day, human helicopters arrived. Soldiers surrounded the area. Scientists came. Generals landed in sleek, black crafts. They all wanted answers. Mark gave them one. She saved the planet. They didn't understand at first. Some wanted her captured. Some wanted to weaponize the ruins of the purifier. Others feared the power still hidden inside her. But Mark told them everything. About the lab, about the bond, about the choice she made. Not to destroy, but to protect. Eventually, they listened. A memorial was built on the ridge. Not a statue, not a weapon, just a stone. On it was one word. Kalira. People came from across the world to visit. They brought flowers, art, songs. They didn't know her, but they felt her. She became more than legend. She became hope. But Mark never stopped searching. Every night, he looked at the stars, whispering her name, until one night. Exactly 1 year. Later, something strange happened. His scanner, long broken, blinked on, pulse detected. Code, spiral gold. Location, unknown. Mark's heart raced. He sat up in bed, eyes wide. The signal was weak, but real. A few minutes later, a portal opened. In the center of the ridge, soft blue light spilled across the stones. It was quiet. Then, footsteps, barefoot, gentle, light. Mark ran toward the ridge, heart pounding, and there she was, Kalyra. Her body was whole, her eyes brighter than ever. The golden spiral on her wrist, glowing steady, she smiled. "I didn't die," she said. Mark stopped. He couldn't believe it. "How?" "When I vanished, the bond protected me. It broke the weapon code, sent me somewhere else, far from the purifier's system." "Where?" "A place between stars, no time, no death, no war." She looked around. "But I heard you," she whispered. "You kept saying my name, and the bond brought me back." Mark stepped closer. "You came back for me?" Kalyra touched his face. "No," she said gently. "I came back for us." They stood in silence, light spinning around them, but the story wasn't over. After her return, everything changed. Kalyra shared her knowledge with human scientists, not weapons, but healing star maps, energy systems that turned sunlight into food. She helped rebuild the forests the war had burned. She guided Earth's leaders to form peace across borders, and then she built something new, a portal station. But this one didn't lead to labs or war zones. It led to other lost children, the ones taken like her, trapped like her, waiting to be found. Mark stayed by her side, never leaving. He became the first human to step through the new portal, a protector, a guide, a friend. Together, they saved not just one planet, but many. And the name Kalyra became a symbol across galaxies, not of destruction, but of choice, of hope, of what happens when a human refuses to let someone fade. And somewhere, in a quiet corner of the stars, two figures walk side by side, a girl made from light, and the man who saw the light in her before anyone else did. The end.